Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, let me explain the Predictive LL1 parser. Predictive LL1 parser is a top-down parser that reads the input from left to right and constructs the leftmost derivation. It uses the one look ahead symbol to predict the correct production without backtracking. We have some set of steps. First, we need to eliminate the left recursion, because it can causes the infinite loop in the top-down parser. After removing the left recursion, the grammar becomes suitable for LL1 parser. The second step is left factoring. The left factoring is performed when two or more production have the same prefix. It helps the parser to choose the correct production by looking at only one input symbol. Find first and follow, the third step. The first set contains the terminals that can appear first in the strings derived from a grammar symbol. The follow set contains the terminals that can appear immediately after the non-terminal. It is important in the production. Fourth one is construct parser table. The parsing table is constructed using the first and follow sets. It tells the parser which production rule to apply for each non-terminal and input symbol. The fifth step is parse the input string. The parser uses the parsing table, stack, and input string to check whether the string belongs to the grammar. If the entire input is matched and the stack become empty, the string is accepted, otherwise it is rejected. I hope you guys understood. Let us see the example grammar. E produces E plus T or T. T produces T into F or F. F produces open common bracket, E close common bracket or ID. We need to eliminate the left recursion. So the grammar without left recursion, E produces T E prime. E produces T E prime. Now the expression starts with the term followed by E prime. E prime is a new non-terminal introduced to remove the left recursion. So E prime produces plus T E prime or epsilon. E prime handles the repeated addition operations. If another plus operator is present, it continues with plus T E prime. Otherwise, it becomes epsilon, which means expression ends or empty string. Next, T produces F T prime. Now the term starts with the factor followed by the T prime. T prime is another new non-terminal introduced to remove the left recursion. So the next is T prime. T prime produces star F T prime or epsilon. T prime handles the repeated multiplication operations. If another multiplication operator is present, it continues with star ft prime. Otherwise, it becomes epsilon, which means the expression ends here. The last will keep as it is. Open brace, E, close brace or ID. Why? Because here there is no left recursion. I hope you guys understood. Let us go to the second step. The second step is left factoring. After removing the left recursion, that is first step, we check whether the left factoring is required for this grammar. In this grammar, the left factoring is not needed because no productions have the common prefix. Therefore, we proceed directly finding the first and follow sets. I hope you guys understood. So, no common prefix. Third step is find the first and follow. We remove the left recursion from the grammar because an LL1 parser cannot handle left recursive grammars. After removing it, we get this equivalent grammar which is suitable for predictive parsing. First, sets first of E equals E produces T first, T produces F first. Since F starts with either open common brace or ID, the first of E open common brace, comma ID. The first of E prime equals, the E prime has two productions, you can see, plus TE prime and epsilon. So it can start with plus, so it can disappear using epsilon. So the T prime equals plus comma epsilon. Next, first of T. The first of T begins with F. F starts with open common brace or ID. Therefore, the first of T is open common brace comma ID. I hope you guys understood. First of T prime. T prime can begin with star or it can produce the epsilon. Therefore, the first of T prime is star comma epsilon. First of F. First of F, the F production has open common brace, E close common brace and ID. So, the first of F is open common brace comma ID. I hope you guys understood. Follow sets. Follow of E. E is the start symbol, so the dollar is included. And also in F production we have E. So F produces open brace, E close brace. E is followed by the close brace. So close brace is included. So follow of E is close brace comma dollar. Follow of E prime. E prime at the end of the E production, that is E produces TE prime. Since it is the last symbol, the follow of E is copied to the follow of E prime. So the follow of E prime equals close brace comma dollar. The follow of T. E production, you can see T E prime. T is followed by E prime. The first of E prime contains the plus, so the plus is added. Since E prime can produce the epsilon, the follow of E, which is close brace, and dollar is also added. So the follow of T equals plus close brace dollar. Follow of T prime equals, the T prime appears at the end of the T production. You can see T produces FT prime. Since it is the last symbol, the follow of T is copied to the follow of T prime. So it is plus comma close brace comma dollar. Of F. Follow of F. In T production you can see F T prime. F is followed by T prime. The first of T prime contains star, so star is added. Since T prime can produce the epsilon, the follow of T, which is plus close brace and dollar, is also added. I hope you guys understood. The fourth step is predictive parsing table. Let us see how to construct the table. You can see the table here. Left hand side E prime T prime F, and right hand side ID plus star open brace close brace dollar. How the table is filled? For produces E prime, the first E is open brace comma ID. So we write E produces E prime under the column of open brace and ID. Next, for E prime, we'll write for E prime, the production is plus E prime. The first of plus E prime is plus. So we write E prime produces plus E prime under the plus column, and E prime also produces the epsilon. Since this production contains the epsilon, we use the follow of E prime, which is close brace comma dollar. So we write E prime produces epsilon under close brace and dollar symbol. The next is T produces T prime. The first of T is close brace comma ID. So we write T produces T prime under open brace and ID. T prime produces T prime. Since it contains the epsilon, we use the follow of T prime, which is plus close brace dollar. So we write T prime produces epsilon under plus close brace and dollar. The next is F. F produces the E. The first of E is open brace. So we write F produces E under open brace column. F produces again ID. The first of ID is ID. So we write F produces ID under the ID column. I hope you guys understood this table. The final step is parse the input string. Parse the string, you can see W equals ID plus ID into ID. This is our input string. Let us see how we can parse the input string. Stack input output are the three columns. Let us understand in detail. The first symbol is $E and the input string is ID plus ID into ID dollar. We can see the top of the stack is E and the current input is ID. From the parsing table, we select the production E produces E prime. So we replaces the E with E prime. So the next is, we will write in the reverse order. So that is $E prime T and the input is ID plus ID into ID dollar. So now the top of the stack is T. Since the input is still ID, we apply the production. T produces T prime. You can see in the table. So the next input is $E prime T prime F. The input is ID plus ID into ID dollar. So F is the top of the stack is F and the input is ID, we replace F with ID using the rule F produces ID. So next dollar E prime T prime ID. The input is ID plus ID star ID dollar. So ID is same. We are cancelling it. So next it will dollar E prime T prime. Next plus ID into ID dollar is my input. Now the top is T prime and the current input is plus. Since there is no multiplication, we apply T prime produces epsilon, which means T prime will be disappear. So T prime will be disappear. So next dollar E prime input is plus ID into ID dollar. The top is E prime and the current input is plus. From the parsing table, we apply E prime and plus we have E prime produces plus T E prime. So we will write in the next stack will be dollar E prime T plus, then plus plus get cancelled. ID into ID dollar will remain same. Next, we'll go to the next step, that is dollar E prime T ID into ID dollar. The top is T and the current input is ID. We apply T produces FT prime. Next will be, we will write dollar E prime T prime F. The input is ID into ID dollar. Since the input is ID, we apply F produces ID. Again our stack is dollar E prime T prime ID get cancelled. Again our input will be dollar. Next will be stack dollar E prime T prime. The input is star ID dollar. The top is T prime and the current input string is star. The parsing table tells us to apply T prime produces star F T prime because the multiplication operator is present. Again our stack will be dollar E prime T prime F star and the input is star ID dollar. Here star is common and we are eliminating it. Again our stack will become dollar E prime T prime F and input is ID dollar. So the top is F and the input is ID. We apply F produces ID. Next dollar E prime T prime ID. The input is ID dollar. ID get cancelled. Again dollar symbol will be remain. Next will be dollar E prime T prime dollar symbol. T prime, the input is reached to the T prime becomes epsilon and it will get disappear. The next is dollar E prime. The top is E prime and the input is dollar. We apply the E prime produces epsilon, so E prime will be disappear. So the final step is stack is dollar, input is dollar. Now both the stack and input contains only the end marker, that is dollar, since it is matched and the parser accepts the input string. I hope you guys understood. Thank you.